No. We're on chapter 3. No, we're on chapter 2. And there's analogies. And there's an overview. We go to the overview of chapter 2. All right.
Yes, Maharaj.
Is it chapter 2 or chapter 3?
I say chapter 2.
Chapter 2, okay.
There's no harm to go over it again, but it's short. Then we skip ahead. So verses 1 through 7. Somebody read that? What have we got? Okay, we got
Verses 1 to 7. That's Canto 2, chapter 2. Overview. Is it correct, Maharaj?
Yep.
Okay. Sukadev Goswami describes the futility of fruitive endeavor. The conditioned souls hover in dreams of such heavenly illusory pleasures, but actually they do not relish any tangible happiness. He thus recommends that the necessities of life be kept at a bare minimum, at a bare minimum, so that one can become fixed in devotional service, by which one can end the conditioned state of existence.
Right. So that's supposed to be the motto of your mission, right? Simple living and high thinking. Anybody remember what it says? Where they, you can use your arms for pillow and pick up old clothes that people. It's extreme renunciation. When we should balance, we should know what we really need, not what we just want. This is what's driving people crazy. They want so many things that they don't need. In America, everywhere we go, there's a storage. People hire big rooms just to keep all the stuff they never use. They just collect so many things because the banks will loan money so easily and the shops will loan money. And they just end up with so many things they don't need. Okay, verses 8 through 14.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah, go for it.
Yes, 8 to 14. The Lord in the heart is described. The process of meditation should begin from the lotus feet of the Lord and process to his smiling face. This gradual process will glorify the intelligence. The Virat Rupa meditation. Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, 122 to 39 is a prerequisite to meditation on the personal form for those who have not yet developed a sense of loving service to the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna.
Any comments? Any comment? No?
Yes, there is a comment, Maharaj.
Yeah.
The last two lines said the Virat Rupa meditation is a prerequisite to meditation on the personal call for those who have not yet developed a sense of loving service unto the Supreme Lord. But these are people meditating on the personal form of Krishna. So it looks a bit confusing.
Yeah, we've already, supposedly, you see, we've been very merciful. Lord Chaitanya has given us the personal form right off. You know, that means, according to Devahuti, mother of Kapila, we've already done that. You know, we've already done these other meditations. So we don't need to worry about that. But still, this the example of the universal form that's given, it's fascinating. It's in the Bhagavad Gita, so it's something, you know, worthwhile. It's a manifestation of Krishna to help us remember the personality. So the idea is that if we see the mountains, we can think this is the bones of the Lord, and, you know, like that. So it's worthwhile to know these things. Instead of just thinking, oh, look at the beautiful mountain, you can think, oh, look at the Lord's bones, the beautiful ocean, and different parts of the Lord. Okay, 15 through 32.
The Lord in the art is described. The process of meditation should begin from the lotus feet of the Lord and progress to a smiling face. This gradual process will purify the intelligence. The Virat Rupa meditation Canto 2, Chapter 1.
Next one.
15 to 32.
32.
Sukadev Goswami described how a successful Bhakti yogi who is able to quit his body as he likes can purify himself of material gross and subtle bodies, extinguishing all material desires. After pushing his life air through the cerebral hole and gradually ascending through the higher planets, he can at last pierce the outer coverings of the universe and enter into the kingdom of God. This process was described personally by Lord Krishna unto Brahma.
Okay, we did go over that. Anybody remember? Do you want to try to go back to Godhead that way, or would you rather just chant the holy name? For those who are chanting or serving Krishna, you don't have to do all that. Otherwise, it's like mechanical. You have to know your way and you have to focus your mind and never get distracted. And very difficult.
According to Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, it is better to follow the path of Bhakti, chanting the holy name of the Lord, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare
That's right.
Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.
Okay, then 33 to 37.
Sukadev
wants to-
Goswami. Okay, can I go on?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Advance Prabhu.
Sukadev Goswami recommends direct devotional service, Bhakti Yoga, as the most auspicious means of deliverance for those who are wandering in the material universe. He explains that Lord Krishna is the super soul, the supreme personality of Godhead, and that devotional service to him is the perfection of religion. Therefore, one should hear about, glorify, and remember the Supreme Lord. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, that's the conclusion of everything always. That's the beginning of the whole canto. What was the question that Maharaj Cricket was asking? What was Maharaj Cricket's question?
Hare Krishna. Yes, the question about the one who is about to die.
Right.
Yes.
And then what was the answer? What was the answer?
The answer for one who is about to die is to take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord through the process of chanting the holy name.
Especially for one who's about to die, but for everybody, because everybody's about to die. Right? Everybody is near death. You don't have to be old. You can die any minute, no matter how old you are. Okay. All right, interesting discussion topics. Now, we didn't cover that. So we have enough people with that. Kamalaksha about Paramount Darshan. Seeing the Paramatma, how do you do that? That's what the yogis are meditating on. What is the Paramatma?
Paramatma is the super soul.
Right. And where does he live?
Inside our hearts.
Yeah. And he's in the heart of everyone, every living entity. And I think I mentioned it, I've said it many times, but when Prabhupada was asked, how can we see Krishna in everyone's heart? Anybody remember what he said? Anybody remember? Okay, it's very simple. He said, keep reading the Bhagavad Gita. And Krishna revealed. So for the devotees of Vishnu, of devotees of Krishna, we see Krishna in everyone's heart. This is the original. But normally the super soul is manifested as four-armed Vishnu. But Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, when one understands that I and the super soul are one, meaning Krishna. Now, the Mayavadis think when they see the super soul, they think they're seeing themselves. And that's where they get lost. They can do tapasya and they can meditate and they'll see the super soul. They think it's themselves. They don't think it's Krishna, the Supreme Lord. And they think it's all one. That's a big mistake. But the Vaishnavism is better. So note that down. World of names. That's the easy one. Tamal Krishna. What does that mean, the world of names? It's a very interesting concept. We all have names, right?
Yes.
Can we change our names?
Yes.
Right. Everything has a name, but in every language it's different. It's always temporary. It's not the real person. But everyone is just caught up in the names. Want to look at the exact verse so you can remember? Verse 3 and 7.
For this reason, the enlightened person should endeavor only for the minimum necessities of life, while in the world of names. It should be intelligently fixed and never endeavor for unwanted things, being competent to perceive practically that all such endeavors are merely hard labor for nothing. Mr. Prabhupada explained, the Bhagavad Dharma, or the cult of Srimad Bhagavatam, is practically distinct from the way of fruitful activities which are considered by the devotees to be merely a waste of time. The whole universe, or for that matter, all material existence, is moving on as Jagat, simply for planning business to make one's position very comfortable or secure. Although everyone sees this existence is neither comfortable nor secure, and can never become comfortable or secure at any stage of development. Those who are captivated by the illusory advancement of material civilization following the way of phantasmagoria are certainly madmen. The whole material creation is a jugglery of names only. In fact, it is nothing but a bewildering creation of matter like earth, water, and fire. The buildings, furniture, cars, bungalows, mills, factories, industries, peace, war, or even the highest perfection of material science, namely atomic energy and electronics, are all simply bewildering names of material elements, which, with their concomitant reactions of the three modes. Since the devotee of the Lord knows them perfectly well, he is not interested in creating unwanted things for a situation, which is not at all reality, but simply names of no more significance than the...
Yeah, finish that sentence. Then verse 7. Who else but the gross materialist will neglect such transcendental thought and take to the non-permanent names only, seeing the mass of people fall in the river of suffering
as a great consequence of accruing the result of their own work.
So that means the devotee, they want to help the people. And you see everybody is just lined up for the slaughterhouse, thinking that they're going to get some nice reward, Something like when the people go for that Hajj, you know what that is, right? The Muslims go, right? So they do a lot of tapasya to get there, and they shave, they dress with nothing, they carry almost nothing, and they have to, it's quite difficult. And then the reward they give them is a huge bag of meat. At the end of it, they have the world's biggest goat killing place. So as a reward for all their tapasya, they just dive into more sinful activity. We pray for everybody. This minimum necessities we discussed. Importance of relishing. That's a good one. That's the whole point of all our study and our chanting and everything. So I think we should go over that. So somebody wants to give their idea, I'd be very happy. Again, it's the conclusion and it's the beginning of the Bhagavatam, it's the end, it's everything. It's the beginning of the Bible. In the beginning there was the name, and the name was God. It's everywhere, the name, relishing the holy name, relishing to hear about Krishna. So text number 36. O King, it is therefore essential that every living human being glorify and remember the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, always and everywhere. And purport?
Shukadev Goswami begins this verse with this word, tasmat, or therefore, because in the previous verse, he has already explained that there is no auspicious means for salvation other than the sublime process of Bhakti Yoga. The Bhakti Yoga process is practiced by the devotees in different methods like hearing, chanting, remembering, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, worshiping, praying, rendering service in love, becoming friendly, and offering all that one may possess. All 9 methods are bona fide methods, and either all of them, some of them, or even one of them can bring about the desired result for the sincere devotee. But out of all the 9 different methods, the first one, namely hearing, is the most important function in the process of Bhakti Yoga. Without hearing sufficiently and properly, no one can make any progress by any of the methods of practice. And for the hearing only, all the Vedic literatures are there, compiled by authorized persons like Srila Vishwadev, who is the powerful incarnation of Godhead. And since it has been ascertained that the Lord is the super soul of everything, he should therefore be heard and glorified everywhere and always. That is the special duty of the human being. When the human being gives up the process of hearing about the all-pervading personality of Godhead, he becomes victim to hearing rubbish transmitted by the man-made machines. Machinery is not bad because through the machine, one can take advantage of hearing about the Lord. But because machinery is used for ulterior purposes, it is creating rapid degradation in the standard of human civilization. It is said here that it is incumbent upon the human beings to hear because the scriptures like Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are made for that purpose. Living beings other than human beings have no ability to hear such Vedic literatures. If human society gives itself to the process of hearing the Vedic literature, it will not become a victim to the impious sound vibrated by impious men who degrade the standards of the total society. Hearing is solidified by the process of chanting. One who has perfectly heard from the perfect source becomes convinced about the all-pervading personality of Godhead, and thus become enthusiastic in glorifying the Lord. All the great acharyas like Ramanuja Acharya, Madhava Acharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sarasvati, Thakur, or even in other countries, Muhammad, Christ, and others, have all extensively glorified the Lord by chanting always and in every place. Because the Lord is all-pervading, it is essential to glorify him always and everywhere. In the process of glorifying the Lord, there should be no restriction of time and space. This is called Sanatana Dharma or Bhagavad Dharma. Sanatana means eternal, always and everywhere. Bhagavad means pertaining to Bhagwan, the Lord. The Lord is a master of all time and all space. And therefore, the Lord's holy name must be heard, glorified, and remembered everywhere in the world. That will bring about the desired peace and prosperity so eagerly awaited by the people of the world. The word cha includes all the remaining processes or methods of Bhakti Yoga, as mentioned above. And the
All right.
37,
Number 37.
37 says that those who drink through oral reception, fully filled with the nectarian message of Lord Krishna, the beloved of the devotees, purify the polluted aim of life known as material enjoyment, and thus go back to home, back to Godhead, to the lotus feet of him, a personality of Godhead.
Very good. Sounds good. Now, someone else read the purport.
Kamala Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, can you read the purport?
Yes, where are we now?
On the screen,
Where
test number
37.
test 37.
237.
Yeah, 37, second country, chapter 2, test number 37.
All right.
Purport.
All right. Where I am, I'm an open place. So let me scroll my my phone and see where to.
You can see it on your screen if you can check your screen.
I am an open space.
Okay, you can see
Where
the
am I? Open space, yes. So let me go back to the phone and then 37. There is 7. Yes, 37 purport. The suffering of human society are due to a polluted aim of life, namely lording it over the material resources. The more human society engage in the exploitation of developed material resources for sense gratification, the more it will be entrapped by the illusion. Material energies of the Lord, and thus the distress of the world will be intensified instead of diminished. The human necessity of life are fully supplied by the Lord in the shape of food, grain, milk, fruit, wood, stone, sugar, salt, jewels, cotton, salt, water, vegetable, etc. In sufficient quantity to feed the core of the human race of the Lord, of the world, as well as the living being on each and every planet within the universe. The supply source is complete, and only a little energy by human being is required to get this necessity into the proper channel. There is no need of machine and tools or hard steel planned for artificially creating comfort of life. Life is never made comfortable by artificial need, but by planned living and high thinking. The highest professional thinking for human society is suggested here by Sukadev Goswami, namely, sufficiently hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. For men in this age of Kali, when they have lost the perfect vision of life, this Srimad Bhagavatam is the torchlight by which to see the rare path. Shrajiva Goswami Prabhupada has commented on the Katamritam, mentioning this verse, and has indicated Srimad Bhagavatam to be the nectarean message of the personality of Godhead. By sufficient hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, the polluted aim of life, namely loading it over matter, was subside, and the people in general in all parts of the world will be able to live a peaceful life of knowledge and bliss. For a pure devotees of the Lord, any topic in relation with his name, fame, quality, entourage, etc., are all praising. And because such topics have been approved by great devotees like Narada, Hanuman, Nanda, Maharaj, and others inhabitants of Vrindavana, certainly such message are transcendental and present to the heart and soul. And by the constant hearing of the message of the Bhagavad Gita and later of Srimad Bhagavatam, one is assured, hearing by Srila Sukadev Goswami, that he will reach the personality of Godhead and render him transcendental loving service in the spiritual planet of the name Goroka Vrindavana, which resembling a huge lotus flower. Thus, by the process of Bhakti Yoga, directly accepted as suggested in this verse, by sufficient hearing of the transcendental message of the Lord, the material contamination is directly eliminated without one's attempting to contemplate the impersonal virat, concession of the Lord. And by practicing Bhakti Yoga, if the performer is not purified from the material contamination, he must be a pure devotee. For such an imposter here, there is no remedy for being freed from material entanglement. Thus, the Bhaktivedanta purpose of the second canto,
Second chapter
of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled "The Lord in the Heart." Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. So again, you can read preliminary studies that are recommended. But again, you know, the essence is what we really have to remember. And all the other stuff is to help us. You know, we want to hear and chant attentively and with compassion. In order to really hear and chant, we have to distribute the hearing and chanting. So Lord Chaitanya has given us the whole process of public chanting, reading. We have the books to read, we have the books to distribute. So even though we may not be able, to glorify the Supreme Personality of Godhead very expertly, we can glorify the books. That much we can realize that we really like these books. The books are also Krishna. The holy name that we like to chant. The holy name is Krishna. So we glorify the kirtan, we glorify the books, and we're getting purified. So let's move on to chapter 3, all right? Pure devotional service, a change in heart. Okay, now that's the real thing we want to change, is the heart. The heart is where our deepest attachments are being held. Love especially lives in the heart. Love doesn't live in the mind. The mind is flickering and unsteady. That's why we say the heart and the mind are different. Sometimes people think it's the same because the mind reflects the heart, but the reflection gets bewildered, covered over. So if we have a dirty mind, it can get contaminated, then we don't see properly the mind. And when other people look at us, they don't see the heart. So we need to cleanse the mind, and that cleanses the heart. Is maybe clean already, maybe not, but anything will get cleaned by the chanting process. Chanting and hearing. Shravanam Kirtanam. So, any comments?
I have a comment, Maharaj.
Yeah,
I appreciate how you explained to us the difference between the Mayavadis and the devotees. Because when you say that the yogis, when they see the super soul within their hearts, they now accept it as themselves. But a devotee could understand that there is a super soul in the heart as well as the Atma, so that there are differences in both of them. Because I start wondering, how will somebody say wants to merge with the Supreme? But with that explanation, I have it's more clearer to me. Hare Krishna.
right. So we see by hearing. So hopefully we've heard enough that we know that Krishna's in our heart, and he's in the heart of everyone. He's directing everyone. So the people we're with, the place we take birth, all these things is all directed by Krishna. For a devotee, it's all for our own good, although a lot of times it seems bad. It really makes us, wonder what's going on. Right?
Right.
When we see devotees acting in ways that we don't think are proper, sometimes it's bewildering. We start to wonder. And if the karmis see devotees, people that are chanting, but they're not behaving properly, they might think it's because of chanting. Those people are not acting nice, because you see people that aren't devotees that seemingly are nice. But so we have to make sure we're walking our talk, as your Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj often said. When I was a kid, they always said, practice what you preach. Don't say, do as I say, not as I do, like many parents do these days. My mother, she's smoking a cigarette and telling me not to smoke. It didn't have much effect until I got a little older and tried to smoke and found out how bad it was. And she was right. but so we want to give an example. We're chanting, we're telling people to chant, we're chanting, we're telling people to read the book, we're reading the book. I don't know. So chapter 3, the change in heart. This is the main thing. We want to change our heart. We want to touch the heart of the people we're dealing with. That's love, when the hearts are connected. There's a story like a wise old tribal or something telling the young boy, you know, why when people are angry, they're shouting at each other, but they're standing with their noses touching practically, but they're screaming and so loud. So why is that? Anybody know the answer?
Come again, Maharaj.
Yeah, why would, when we're angry with someone, even though we're right next to them, we're shouting and so loud? But it's still, there's no communication.
Because it is said that when one gets angry, this is far away from the self. The self is very distant. And because of that distance, it cannot connect, even if the person is standing right in the front or close to him or her.
Yeah, because the hearts are far apart. Bodies are next to each other, but the hearts are far separated. So they're screaming and yelling, but they don't, neither one hears the other one. But when people are in love, they can be far away. I think we've seen it. They get on the phone with their beloved and they're in another country, but they don't even talk. They just sit there and they're completely happy because their hearts are connected. Right? So heart, it's not easy to explain in words because it's a transcendental thing, actually. That's where the Lord lives. Okay. This should be an easy one. List 5 of the various demigods worshipped for material desire and their respective results of such worship. Anybody can remember? Because we read these verses. Each demigod can give certain benedictions. The easy one, Indra.
Yeah, said that one should worship Lord Indra if he wants to, the king, or if he desires a powerful sexual life.
Very good. Indram, Indriya, Kamas too. Very good. Prabhupada said it in one class in such a gross way. He said, if one wants to worship the vagina, the stinking, dripping vagina, then he can worship Indra, because Indra is most attached of all the demigods. Really shocking, Prabhupada talking. But he was saying, unfortunately, many of our devotees are more attached to the vagina than they are to Krishna. Because at that time, he had heard so many complaints about illicit sex amongst devotees, and devotees leaving because of sex. So we don't want that. What if someone wants a good husband?
Rasavan Prabhu's hand is up. I guess Rasavan Prabhu's one with iPhone Infinix Note 8.
Yes. Hare Krishna Maharaj. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Prabhu, you can go ahead.
Okay. Those who want good fortune, they worship Mother Durga.
Right. Those who want a good husband or a good wife. There's so many listed if you just open up the Bhagavatam to that, those verses. If somebody wants money, what are they worth?
One who desires to be absorbed in personal Brahma-jyoti effulgence should worship the master of the Vedas, Lord Brahma, Lord Brihaspati.
Anyway, just pick a couple out.
Yeah.
What if you want domination over others? That's a common thing we all want.
One who wants to be very powerful should worship fire.
One who wants domination over others, who should he worship?
One should worship one would desire to worship worldly kingdoms should worship Viswadev.
It's right in there. I mean, it says worship Lord Brahma.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, here's another one that's quite common. What about those who want a good bank balance?
One wants
That Varuna.
So don't get distracted.
Bank balance Varuna.
Remember one time some boys came to Accra and they had that big Ganesh deity. And they were saying the reason you don't have money here is because you're not worshiping Ganesh. They wanted to install, I don't know what they ever did. I think they left it in somebody's parking garage or something, right? The Indians offered to take the Ganesh Murti to the Shiva temple and worship with all mantras and everything, and they said no. They wanted only in the Hare Krishna. But even the Indian man said, everybody knows you don't worship demigod in the Krishna temple. And why is that? Which is, I think, in the next. What are the gains of worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead rather than the demigods? That's the next verse. You know, after all these things from the demigods, then what does Sukadeva Goswami tell us?
who desires domination over the kingdom of worship.
The one we should remember. We don't have to normally remember about all the demigods. It's just giving us all these examples to show us how troublesome it is, you know, these material desires.
One who desires nothing of material enjoyment should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Akama sarvakamo va mokshakama udaradi.
Sivrina Bhakti Yojana Yajita Purusham Param.
So what does that mean?
But I want desire akarma samu sarvakamu whether one have a desire for everything or a desire for nothing, moksha kama, or you desire material liberation, moksha kama, whatever you desire, you should worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Right. Because everything is ultimately coming from Krishna. That's why. Differences and similarities between Bricket and Sukadev. That's interesting. What's the similarity? One of the similarities, the main one.
The similarities. Oh. They are both Krishna's devotees.
We both want to worship Krishna, right? You're both devotees of Krishna. So, Bricket had been a devotee since before he was born. He saw Krishna when he was in the womb, and Krishna was saving his life. So he was always a devotee. And Sukadev was also a great devotee of Krishna, so that we got good. I don't know what the differences are, except, Sukadev was born as a son of a sage, and Bricket is born as, son of a king, but otherwise not different.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
Maharaj Parikshit was a king or householder. So materially, there are differences.
Yeah, the previous life was different, but at this point, of course, Bricket is hearing and Sukadev is speaking, so then that's a difference. Bricket is a student and Sukadev is a teacher.
What about their material differences? One was a king, one was just a renunciate.
Right. Okay, now, analogy. Just read through these. We won't discuss them unless you want to. I have to take a quick break. One by one, read the different analogies are very useful for preaching. So we should note these, and actually devotees have written a book, Prabhupada's Analogies, how he compares different things. And that gives us, we things in the material, we know about them. Like one, I was listening to one conversation of Prabhupada with one reporter. Prabhupada was trying to explain how the soul is in the body and the soul is the most important thing. So he just given the example of a car and a driver. They're different. The car doesn't have much value without a driver. Except that, you can be proud, I have this car, but if you don't drive it, what's the use of it? So the body the soul is more important than the body, because without the soul, the body can't move. He had to say it over and over again, and this reporter just couldn't get it, But that Prabhupada's special gift that he could make such simple analogies to explain such exalted points of spiritual knowledge. So read through those. I'll be back quickly.
Okay. I read the first one. As a highly potent drug injected intravenously, act at once on the whole body. The transcendental topics of the Lord injected through the ear of the pure devotee of the Lord can act very efficiently. Anyone wants to read the next one?
Okay, the next one. Men who are like dogs, hogs, camels, and asses, the so-called educated persons, move like dogs from door to door with applications for some service. Persons who have no discrimination in the matter of foodstuff and who eat all sorts of rubbish are compared to hogs. The tongues mixed with fresh blood creates a taste for the foolish camel. Similarly, the great business magnates eat the thorny results of their actions mixed with their own blood. In this age, the human being is actually engaged in the work of an ass.
Yeah, okay, let me take the third one.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
I was thinking maybe anyway, maybe we can read through all of them, then we can try to maybe make comments or realization on each of them.
Okay, then let me take the third one.
Okay.
Consider to possess ear holes like the holes of snakes and the tongue like the tongue of a frog. The human tongue is especially given for chanting the Vedic hymns and not for croaking like frogs. Similarly, the tongue will be considered a prostitute when engaged in chanting some mundane nonsense.
Can I take the fourth one?
Yeah, Kamala Prabhu, you go ahead.
Can I take the fourth one?
Yes, go ahead, Prabhu.
The upper portion of the body, though crowned with a silk turban, is only a heavy burden, if not bowed down before the personality of Godhead. And the hands are like those of a dead man, if not engaged in a service.
Okay, finish those?
Yeah, we're in the last one. Who wants to read the last one?
Yeah, can I take the last one?
Hare Krishna.
Yeah. Rasavan Prabhu,
Tama
you can read.
Krishna.
Okay, Tama Krishna
Okay.
Prabhu, you can read the
Tama
last
Krishna.
one.
Okay.
Go ahead and read the last one.
The eye which do not look at the symbolic representation of the personality of God and Vishnu are like those printed on the front of the peacock, and the legs which do not move to the holy place are considered to be like trees trunk. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Yeah, welcome.
Those are interesting, huh? But that's all straight out of the slokas. Those are almost quotes of the slokas.
All right, on this first analogy, it says as a highly potent drug injected intravenously acts at once on the whole body, the transcendental topics of the Lord injected through the ear of the pure devotee of the Lord can act very efficiently. So could we say that unless until one becomes a pure devotee of the Lord, the glories of the Lord's chanting does not have effects on such a person? Because the word used here is a pure devotee.
Pure devotee means he's hearing just for the sake of hearing. He's not motivated, not maturely motivated. That's so Prabhupada considered all the devotees in ISKCON to be pure devotees, but there are different degrees of pure devotees. So it acts, but it acts not as fast or not as much. Still works. That's why we preach. That's why we try to spread this message. It will act on anybody. Especially if it's injected by a pure devotee, a really pure. So when Prabhupada's purports have special potency, the Maha Mantra, the thing, this pure devotee is something that we may have a too high expectation of what is a pure devotee. Prabhupada's definition was, different things, but one time when someone asked him, he said, how many devotees are in our movement? And they told him, he said, yeah, well, that's how many there are. And in the Nectar of Instruction, it says, anyone who chants 16 rounds every day, follows the regular principles, and is always thinking how to spread the Sankirtan movement, is a pure devotee. So that includes a lot of devotees, right? But then there's different degrees of how intensely are we chanting, how attentively, how inoffensively, and we're getting purified. The more we hear, the more it will affect us. And prasadam is also compared to an intravenous injection. Prasadam acts on anybody. So we want to distribute lots of prasadam. Okay, let's move on. Chapter 3, overview. So we've been going over it already. Verses 1 through 12. Kamal Krishna.
1 to 12 overview. Come on, Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Sukadev Goswami described benefits of worshiping various demigods to fulfill various material desires. But he recommends that a person of intelligence, whether full of material desire, without material desire, or desire liberation, to worship the personality of Godhead. Only by the association of the pure devotees of the Lord can one achieve the highest professional benediction, which is unfriction attraction for the supreme personality of Godhead, Hare Krishna.
So give your association, go out, let people see you wearing tilak, chanting the holy name, talking about Krishna one way or another, and be merciful and associate with devotees. Go to the temple, help, support the temple, look for the good in the devotees and everything. Verses 10 through 16.
I read. Sanaka Rishi implores Sutta Goswami to continue narrating the dialogue and the Supreme Lord between Krishna. Sorry, I take it again. Sanaka Rishi implores Sutta Goswami to continue narrating the dialogue about the Supreme Lord between Sukadev Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit. Maharaj Parikshit was a great devotee of the Lord from his very birth. And so was Sukadev Goswami. When such devotees are assembled together, there can be no topic save discussion of the glories of the Lord or Bhakti Yoga.
Okay, we discussed that pretty thoroughly. 17 through 25.
Can I take it?
Yeah, go ahead, Prabhu.
Madhava. Whoever.
Both by rising and by setting, the sun decreases the duration of life of everyone, except one who utilizes the time by discussing topics of the all-good personality of Godhead. Sanaka Rishi gives many analogies to support his appeal that engagement in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the only beneficial activity for a human being, and that all other occupation place one as either animalistic or lifeless. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, very good. So that first line, that's exactly the sloka. Both by rising and setting, one day is lost. Like you used to see, there's cartoons of someone in the prison, and every day they put an X over the day and another day down. But that's how our life is. But for a devotee, it's not like that because he doesn't die, he lives forever. Actually, our lifespan is increasing the more we hear and chant about Krishna. So animalistic question. Animals are very nice in so many ways, except that they don't have any God content. Maturely, animals are often very superior to humans. They're more loving their family better. They're more expert at finding food and shelter. They're generally not in anxiety, but because they have no God consciousness. If a human's living like an animal, just expert at eating, sleeping, and mating and defending, then that's very sad because if opportunity is given to us and we don't take it. Now, this next discussion topic, I hope you can all say something. This is a big one in ISKCON, lots of confusion Lots of devotees have different ideas. So who would like to say something? Nitya Siddha and Sadhana Siddha. What is it? Nitya Siddha.
Nitya Siddha are eternally liberated souls.
What does Siddha mean?
One was a liberated soul. Liberation. No. Siddha means perfection. I'm trying to find the exact word.
Yeah, it's perfection. That's spiritual perfection. Nitya means always. He was never not. But then there's a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
And sadhana siddha means by practicing sadhana, he became perfect.
Yeah.
But then he can become a sadhana siddha. A nitya baddha means an eternally fallen soul.
That statement, eternally fallen, sometimes, like you said, Maharaj, is very big topic even in ISKCON movement, because if the soul is eternally conditioned, then how do we consider the soul to be a fallen or sinful? Let me use the word, that word, because it wasn't his fault if he was created eternally fallen. So why should he be suffering? Will God be a just God for creating one in that situation and creating some other beings liberated? So it means Krishna is not just. Krishna is partial. But he said, I'm somewhere in Bhagavad Gita, he said, I'm equal to everyone. But then if he creates some eternally conditioned, eternally liberated, so how is Krishna then just?
Well, Krishna didn't create anyone liberated or not liberated. Everyone exists simultaneously with Krishna. Everyone's eternal, but we have free will, so sometimes we give up our liberated condition. Krishna didn't create some fallen and some not fallen.
Okay. So then that will mean that the assertion that every living Jiva Atma is coming from the spiritual world then will stand, according to the review research work done by the GBC, because there are some devotees who think that the living entity never falls from the spiritual world. And some say that the living entities are falling from the spiritual world. In the spiritual world, there cannot be imperfection. So there cannot be misuse, because every living entity in the spiritual world are all perfect. So there cannot be misuse of independence in the environment of spiritual world.
That's what I'm trying to tell you, but the devotees who say that, they don't accept, that's why we want to go by what Prabhupada and our acharyas say. And they can find little obscure quotes here and there, but
it is said that the living entity, it is said that living entities, the conditioned souls, are all manifesting from the Shankar. And Shankar is secondary expansions of Lord Nityananda or Balaram. And that Shankar is in the spiritual environment, the spiritual world. So if the living entity are emanating from the Shankar, would they not be coming from the spiritual environment? Because Shankar does not reside in the material world.
Yeah, but it's too big long of a discussion, but you know, where does Mahashankarshan come from? It's all, I can give a gross analogy that I think of, but say that the prime minister of, or whatever you have in Nigeria, you have a president or prime minister, what do they call him?
The president.
So what if he comes to visit Ibadan? Who will make all the arrangements for him to come? He doesn't make his own arrangements, right?
Mm-hmm.
The governor, the mayor of Ibadan will arrange everything. So someone may think, oh, the governor is superior because he's bringing the, you know. So we got into the material world because there's free will, misusing the free will. This is a major point of all of Prabhupada's teaching, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur and the Bhagavatam, that we have free will. Krishna is totally independent, and so we're created with the same qualities as Krishna. So we also have independence, but it's a very limited independence. So we have a choice. We can serve Krishna or not serve Krishna. Now, some will say that everyone just came out of nowhere and then someone else decides you serve Krishna and you go to the material world. No, it's not like that. It's that we're all created with Krishna. And then that's why we're called fallen souls. If you were created materialistically, then you'd be not fallen, you'd already be that way, right? Fallen means you were somewhere higher and you fell down. It's all very simple, but they don't want to accept that because they don't want to accept responsibility for their own degraded condition. They want to blame Krishna for it. Something like one reporter asked Prabhupada, well, I can't understand if the spiritual world is so good, why would someone leave? So it must not be that good. And I can't understand why. Prabhupada said, that's because you're too stupid, you know, very clearly. So, and then he said, it's just like someone is in our movement, they're living very nicely, they're chanting, and they leave and they go back to the material world and smoke cigarettes and drink beer and eat meat and, you know, they volunteered, they weren't kicked out. Nobody, you know, but they might say, oh, the temple president forced me, the GBC forced me, they didn't take care of me properly. No, we make our choice. We have free will. And the only use of it is we can choose to serve Krishna or not. But Maya tells us you have so many choices. It's not your fault. Krishna created you this way. There's some Christians, that's their idea. Everything is predestined. God created some people good and some people bad. No. He created us all the same, but we all have the free will. So just like in this world, in your country, any country, there are people in the prison, they're criminals. It's not everybody is a criminal, but everyone could be a criminal if they wanted to be. And the criminal wouldn't have to be a criminal. He might say, I had to be a criminal because of this and that, but it's his choice. People in jail, they're always blaming somebody else. You know, I'm innocent, but the lawyer screwed me or something. So I have to find the exact reference again, but It's explained very clearly how an Nityasiddha can become a Nityabhada, and a Nityabhada can become a Nityasiddha. So
There is the reference, Maharaj.
I have to find it. It'll take me a few minutes of research. I remember noting it down, but I find these things on the run sometimes. So then I think I can remember it. So that may sound like a contradiction in terms, because Nitya means eternal.
Yeah.
Because when you're in that state, you're not aware of that you ever anything else. When you're in Nitya Siddha, even if you came up by Nitya Sadhana, by Sadhana Siddhi, you become a Nitya Siddha, you don't remember your fallen condition. And when you're in the fallen condition, you don't remember the pure physician, because that's the covering of Maya. That's why we say hell is eternal, but hell is not eternal. It's a short time according to our time calculation. But it seems like eternal, because when you're suffering in hell, you can't possibly think of any other condition. And when you're Nityasiddha, you can't think of any other condition either. So somehow my searcher is not working properly. So I should take my word for it. But the point is, we're responsible for our condition. Krishna did not put us in this condition just to play a game with us. Like you see movies or, where there's a big demon and they capture the slaves and they make them run like an animal and they chase them and hunt them down or something. Krishna is not like that. Krishna didn't put us here in this material world just to watch us suffer. He doesn't want us here. That's why we have. Otherwise, if you're created, fallen, and you can't be anything else, then why do we have a preaching movement? Why? That's stupid. Why is anyone trying to get out? If you can't get out, you understand?
Yes, Maharaj.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.
And these crazy people, even in the name of devotees, we have all kinds of people, Some are coming simply to create trouble within our society. Kali Chela. They come in disguise of devotees and they start preaching all crazy things. And I know the history. I joined this movement in 1971, right early on in January. And we never heard of the idea of anything except that we're fallen souls. I never heard anyone talk about it. And then after Prabhupada left, although it had been brought up to Prabhupada, and he just said, it's not, how you got into the material world is not worth, it's too far back and we want to get out of the material world. But after Prabhupada left, the devotees started going to some of his godbrothers. And some of them were talking like that. And it created this whole idea. That's one of the main, like I heard it from one God brother, and I just said, forget it. My friend, he said, he doesn't use any scriptural reference, he just says so many things, that were created in the Tatastha. But the Tatastha is not a place. It's a concept. The soul is the jiva souls are Tatastha. That means we can act in service to Krishna, or we can act against Krishna. We have that choice. It's not a place where all the souls were created, and then they show you movies of the spiritual world, and they show you movies of the material world, and then you decide to go there, which is the kind of thing this guy was saying, is devotee, or that there's someone else who looks at you and decides, oh, he should go to the material world, he should go to the spiritual world. No, not at all. It's a totally insane thing to think. It's not how Krishna works. In the material world, when you leave your body, then you have to go to Yamaraj and decide if you're going to go to hell or take birth again and go to heaven. Yamaraj doesn't decide you can go to the spiritual world. That you have to volunteer for. So when a criminal in the jail realizes, I made a choice, I want to change, and they start to study. Sometimes people become lawyers while they're in the prison. They study, they become doctors, all while they're in the prison, because they know this is foolish that I was living in such a way to be in prison. I want to get out of it. Others fight and try to escape the prison and just make everything worse and worse for themselves. Right? Does that help? I'll definitely find that reference. I know who I gave it to, and I think he noted it down. Prabhupada's purports have like so many millions of words, and so many wonderful things are in there. And everything is very, very clearly stated. And then people read some Vedas, and they read this and that, and they come up with all different things. Or they read some non-devotee interpretation of the Sandarbhas, and then we get in trouble. All right? So but definitely a Nityabhada can become a Nityasiddha, a Nityasiddha can become a Nityabhada. This is what's called a Achintya Shakti, Achintya Beta Beta Tattva. It's the same and different. This is Lord Chaitanya's special contribution. If we don't accept the inconceivable potencies of the Lord, then we can never understand Krishna. Then we can go on and on and on word juggling, be expert at jugglery or expert at Sanskrit grammar, or know 10 million Vedic slokas that Prabhupada never quoted and none of our acharyas ever quoted, to prove my point that I'm the actual only one that knows. This is not our program, not our spiritual, not our sampradaya.
Thank you, Maharaj.
So there's only 118 different times that Nityabhada is. So what's the next thing in our list there?
He's talking about the importance of sadhu sangha by means of arikata.
Okay, all of you, one by one, say something about that.
I can start. I think if we look at the life of great personalities like Narad Muni, he perfectly displays the Krishna's instructions to Arjuna in chapter 4, text number 34, Bhagavad Gita, where he says, approaching a spiritual master, he had and tasted prasadam of the sadhus, the Bhakti Vedantas, and his life got transformed, even from the position of a maid, son of a maid servant. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Chaitanya Charitamrita also in so many ways indicated by several pastimes, even to the lower entities like the animals. He was passing through the Kavicandra forest.
What is that?
So from most of the pastimes and experiences that we have, and even in our practical lives, we've seen that seemingly impossible vices are easily overcome by being in the association of devotees. That's my realization.
Okay, someone else? Again, that's the whole essence of everything. Sadhu Sangha. What does Lord Chaitanya say about Sadhu Sangha? We have a few minutes. I don't know what these parentheses mean at the beginning. We went over this Krishna is superior to the Devas, so that's easy. The pure devotee's duration of life is not stopped by day and night. Hogs, dogs, asses, and camels. Then this last one, people of the world are taught to hear, should be taught to hear transcendental topics. Devotees of the Lord must speak loudly so that the people can hear us. That's important. We have to make a big show. Otherwise, the karmis are so absorbed in their material life that even when chanting Harinam, if we're not looking very happy and dancing and we have very clear, we're not banging the mridanga and we're just playing really nicely, they're not going to even notice us, or else they're going to just say, oh, look at those crazy people. But if they see the devotees very joyful and very beautiful, then they're attracted. So we have to think like that. Okay, here I found something. This is not the exact one. This is in 5th Canto, chapter 11, verse 12.
Report. 10th Canto, Maharaj?
5th Canto.
Okay, 5th Canto. Chapter?
Jad Bharat.
That's chapter 10. What verse, Maharaj?
12.
Okay.
Those in the material world are conditioned, Nityabada. And Nityabadas can become liberated by controlling the mind, because the cause of conditioned life is the mind. When the mind is trained and the soul is not under the mind's control, the soul can be liberated even in this material world. When it is liberated, one is called Jivan Mukta. He knows how he has become conditioned. Therefore, he tries to purify himself and return back home. Return back home, back to Godhead. Now, I happen to, I'm not born in a Brahmin family and been educated, by my buddies. I'm born in a Malacha family, and I believe Prabhupada. And if you want to count how many times Prabhupada says, back to Godhead, return back home, it's unlimited times. In so many different ways, he says it. Regain our original position, So why would somebody say our original condition is fallen? We want to go back to that, back to fall, back to Godhead. And they make up so many stories about it, that these are somehow demoniac ideas that enter in. Eternally conditioned soul is eternally conditioned because of his mind, but the mind can be purified.
All right. I'm trying to get where you're reading, Maharaj. 5, 10, 12.
The purport of verse 12, chapter 11.
Okay, chapter 11, you said. I thought you said 10.
So one can become Jivan Mukta, even in this body can be liberated. But then he goes back to Godhead, back to Godhead, back to Godhead.
Okay. The non-dual entities of two kinds, Nitya Bada or Nitya Mukta. One is eternally conditioned and the other eternally liberated. The eternally liberated living entities are in the Vaikuntha Jagat, the spiritual world, and they never fall into the material world. Those in the material world are conditioned soul, Nitya Bada. The Nitya Badas can become liberated by controlling the mind, because the cause of conditioned life is the mind. When the mind is trained and the soul is not under this mind's control, the soul can be liberated even in this material world. When it is liberated, one is called Jivan Mukta. The Jivan Mukta knows how he has become conditioned. Therefore, he tries to purify himself and return home, back to God. The eternally conditioned soul is eternally conditioned because it's controlled by the mind. The conditioned state and liberated state are compared to the sleeping unconscious state and the awakened state. Those who are sleeping and unconscious are eternally conditioned. But those who are awake understand that they are eternally part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, in this material world, they engage in Krishna service, as confirmed by the Srila Rupa Goswami, Ihayasya Hare Dasye. If one takes to Krishna service, he is liberated, even though he appears to be a conditioned.
Okay, here's another one. This is from the Krishna book, Prayers of the Personified Vedas. I'll just read it, just listen. In the material world, although the Lord is all pervasive, the living entities have forgotten Krishna consciousness, Now, I asked one of these guys one time, can you forget something you never knew? He said, yes. I mean, if I forgot something, I forgot my keys, right? I locked them in the house. So I know that I had the keys before and I forgot to bring them. I can't forget something that I never knew. How can I forget Krishna if I never knew Krishna? And they'll say, well, Prabhupada is just, it's a preaching tactic because the Christians don't believe you came from the spiritual world. They believe you're, I don't know what. Prabhupada, to say these terrible things that Prabhupada was not saying the truth and all this that these people say, it's so disgusting. So just like sparks from the fire lose their original brilliant condition, they fall into different conditions and retain more or less of it. This is the pure devotees who take compassion. So that Prabhupada says again and again, our original Krishna consciousness. Okay, time to stop, but that's it. If you had the database, you can keep searching. We become conditioned. We're in a different state than our original condition. We're conditioned for it. That means we were something else. When you're conditioned, it means you changed. Something changed you.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
All right?
Yes, Maharaj.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
There are verses also in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, very famous verse, which I don't remember the Sanskrit right off, but we're fallen. That's the whole point of trying to get out, is that we don't belong here. It's not our natural place to be. If we are created in the material world and created that way, then that means that's what we are. We can't change.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yeah.
I think Jesus gave a parable of the prodigal son. Originally, he was rendering service to the father, but after some time, maybe propensity for sense gratification, decided to leave the father. So our desire not to render service again. Maybe we have been having service before, but now you can see that generally nobody in this material, nobody likes to render any service to Krishna. Even the so-called, some of us who are so-called devotees, we don't render service or we don't render tangible services. So, I think,
You're talking about the prodigal son?
Yes, I guess he is.
Yeah. Poor boy, going down.
yes, I have a son.
I don't need my father. I'll go out on my own and I'll enjoy the material world. Right? And then he finally ends up, completely suffering, forgotten his own father. But the father didn't forget him. And then someone tells the father, I saw your son. He's feeding the pigs. And then the father welcomes him back. And that's what's described. When you finally get back to the Goloka, Krishna becomes so happy, welcomes you back in ecstasy. Where have you been? I've been waiting so long for you. Why did you leave me? And then you don't remember. You wake up from the dream. We'll often forget the dream right away. All right, so we'll see you tomorrow. We can set the time. I'll tell us tomorrow I'm free. Anytime it's best for you. As long as it's before your...
I think we can do the same time, 1 p.m. or 12 p.m. Ghana time. If depending on the Ghana devotees, 12. It's actually Sunday program time, but
No, I can do it in, your morning time if you like.
Bhakti Sastri time, you can come in. Bhakti Sastri, they already fixed their timing for 7 o'clock Ghana, 7:30 Ghana time, which is 8:30 Nigerian time. And they'll be landing up by Marat?
That's morning time?
Yeah, that's morning time, 7 started Ghana time. So it will be, they will stop that 9:30 Ghana time, which is 10:30 the local time here. So we can do 11 o'clock. If all devotees okay by that, we can do 11 to 1 p.m. Is that okay?
That's okay. That's
Okay.
good.
11 Nigerian time, 10 o'clock Ghana time.
All right, very good. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Maharaj. Please, I request everyone to please kindly unmute and let us loudly chant Mahamantra. We want to appreciate Maharaj for his mercy upon us. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Panchakarpatarubhyascha kripa
Kripa
sindhubhyascha bhava chidyo
His
Holiness Kavicandra Swami Maharaj ki jai. So devotees, we meet by 10 o'clock Ghana time, 11 o'clock Nigerian time tomorrow. Let us be punctual so that we can run it up in good time. So we stopped at chapter 3. We are having the overview on we did the discussion topics. So which is on page 77.
So, Saraka Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, with the quotation that Maharaj read the last time. He said what, 5, 11, 12 for what?
It is 5th canto, chapter 11, text number 12, purport.
Okay, 5th canto, 11, 12.
5, 11, 12, yes.
Okay, okay. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji.